After being killed by a demon, a knight is reincarnated as an S-rank monster, the Behemoth, a creature so dangerous that it takes an entire army to defeat. However, he isn't thrilled about this new life, as he was once sworn to protect humanity. As he examines his reflection, he's shocked to find that he looks like a cat. Meanwhile, an elf girl named Arya is preparing to venture into a dungeon. As the cat looks around, he notices a slime approaching. With a single skill, he easily defeats it. However, he suddenly feels hungry, so he decides to eat the slime. To his surprise, the slime is actually very delicious. Just then, a screen appears in front of him, revealing that he has gained the slime skill called storage. He thinks the skill is very useful and stores the rest of the slime in it. Knowing that he can steal the skills of the monsters he consumes, he gets an idea. He then goes around and starts hunting and eating monsters to grow stronger. After some time, he encounters a treasure chest containing a shiny gem. However, the chest is a trap that teleports him onto the back of an S-rank monster, the Earth Dragon. He tries attacking the dragon using his skills, but its skin is too tough. When the dragon retaliates, he uses his iron body skill to block the attack, but he still takes damage. Impressed by his survival, the dragon lowers its guard as it tries to eat him. Taking advantage of the opportunity, he strikes the dragon's eye and manages to escape. Too bad for him, the damage he took from the dragon was too severe. As he lay down, thinking he was going to die, Arya saw him and decided to take him back to her home to treat his wounds. Several days have passed, and he is fully recovered. Since Arya saved his life, he vows to protect her for as long as he lives. When Arya heads back to the dungeon to complete another quest, he decides to secretly follow her, hoping nothing bad happens to her. While in the dungeon, she encounters 3 goblins. Unfazed, she activates her acceleration skill, moving at incredible speed and quickly dispatching all of them. This impresses the cat. Suddenly, another goblin appears and surprises her with a fireball. Luckily, the cat rushes in and pushes her out of the way. Not wanting to reveal his true identity, he avoids using his skills and instead scratches the goblin's face, sending it tumbling down the stairs. Arya is surprised to see the cat and is grateful for the rescue. Later, at the Adventurers Guild, Arya is approached by a man named Kazman. He asks if she has changed her mind about joining his party. As he tries to touch her, the cat leaps up, biting his hand and scratching his face in retaliation. Kazman, enraged, draws his sword, but he is quickly stopped by the guild receptionist, who reminds him that brandishing a weapon on guild grounds is strictly forbidden. Scared, Kazman quickly runs away. The guild receptionist then assures Arya to let him know if Kazman harasses her again. Grateful for the support, Arya happily tells him that the cat has now saved her twice and declares that it will officially be her pet and naming it Tama. After receiving the reward for her quest, Arya buys some alcohol and gets drunk. She then threatens Tama, saying that if he doesn't fix his attitude toward her, she won't let him join her in the bath. Hearing this, Tama immediately starts behaving and obediently listens to everything she says. While bathing, Arya tells Tama about her dream of becoming as strong as the person who once saved her life. She reveals that years ago, her hometown was attacked by demons. Just when all seemed lost, the legendary Sword Saint appeared and defeated all the demons. This event left a lasting impression on Arya, making her admire the Sword Saint and strive to become strong enough to protect others just as she was protected. The next day, Arya and Tama return to the Adventurers Guild to look for a new quest. While there, they encounter Kazman again. This time, he arrives with written orders from a baron, declaring that the cat who injured him previously must be put down. The announcement shocks everyone. Noticing Arya's deep affection for Tama, Kazman smirks and proposes a deal. If she doesn't want Tama to be harmed, they can settle the matter with a duel. If she wins, Tama will go free, but if she loses, she must agree to become his wife. Left with no other option, Arya reluctantly agrees. As the duel is about to begin, Kazman announces to the crowd that there's a significant gap in rank between him and Arya. To avoid tarnishing his reputation as a coward, he declares that Arya can have outside assistance. However, no one dares to step forward to oppose Kazman. Just then, Tama steps in front of Arya, ready to fight. Kazman laughs, mocking the idea that a mere kitten could pose any threat to him. Arya, on the other hand, feels a surge of happiness, touched by Tama's willingness to protect her. When the duel starts, Tama immediately charges at Kazman. but without using magic, Tama's attacks have no effect on him. Meanwhile, Arya uses her acceleration skill to increase her speed, but Kazman reads her every move effortlessly and counters her attacks easily. As Kazman is about to defeat Arya, Tama leaps in, activating his iron body skill to block the attack. The impact shatters Kazman's sword. Tama then uses his howling skill, sending Kazman flying into a nearby tree. The broken sword spins through the air and strikes Kazman, defeating him. The crowd is left in shock as they realize Tama can use magic. Believing his secret is now exposed and fearing they'll recognize him as a monster, Tama prepares for the worst. He doesn't regret his actions at all. Instead, he feels fulfilled knowing he protected his master. However, to his surprise, the crowd cheer instead. They assume Tama is a rare elemental cat and celebrate both his and Arya's victory. The next morning, after waking up, Tama wanted to make Arya happy by licking her ear, hoping she would enjoy it. What he didn't realize was that this made Arya adore him even more, so much so that he began to wonder if he might regret it. Later, Arya took Tama to meet her friend Vulcan, a blacksmith and C-rank adventurer. When Vulcan saw Tama, she was delighted and placed him on her chest. She then asked Arya why she had come. Smiling, Arya explained that she wanted Vulcan to make armor for Tama. Excited by the idea, Vulcan immediately began measuring him. A few days later, the armor was finished, and Arya was thrilled with the result. She then asked Vulcan if she could make her sword lighter, explaining that she just couldn't seem to get the hang of using it. Vulcan, however, said that making it lighter would make the blade too fragile. Instead, she suggested they go to a dungeon together, where she could watch Arya in action and come up with a better solution. In the dungeon, Tama and Arya are both amazed by Vulcan's strength as she effortlessly defeats all the goblins in her path. Shortly after, an orc appears, and Vulcan tells Arya that it's her turn to handle it. Arya uses her usual acceleration skill to fight the orc, but her movements are too predictable. As the monster strikes back, Tama jumps in to block the attack, creating an opening for Arya to finish it off. Despite her victory, Arya feels unsatisfied with the outcome. Vulcan approaches her and tells her that she knows why her moves are so easy to read. She then leads Arya to the next floor to face a group of monsters called Roper. Tama thinks it's a bad idea and imagines Arya getting caught by the creature. Suddenly, Arya charges at the monster as she usually does, but this time it's too fast for her to even get close. As the battle progresses, one of her swords is knocked out of her hand and the other is destroyed. At that moment, Vulcan tosses a pair of knives to Arya. With these new weapons, Arya moves faster than before and easily defeats all the monsters in the area. However, as one of the creatures falls, a strange liquid sprays from its body, splashing all over Arya. This makes Arya furious, and she continues attacking the monster even after it's already dead. Meanwhile, Tama seizes the opportunity to eat the monster in order to gain a new skill, despite the unpleasant taste. Later, Arya reveals that the reason she used longswords because she admired the Sword Saint. However, she now feels happy to have found a weapon that suits her better. Vulcan then takes Tama and Arya to a bath area inside the dungeon. She assures them that the place is safe because it contains a Philosopher's Stone, which prevents A-rank or lower monsters from approaching. Arya gazes at the stone and recalls the time the demon attacked her village. While bathing, Arya learns from Vulcan that her previous party broke up because two members fell in love and one of them got pregnant. Vulcan then looks at Arya and warns her to be cautious, explaining that elemental cats can crossbreed, and who knows what Tama might do to her when he grows bigger and is in heat. However, this doesn't scare Arya at all. Instead, it makes her happy. As they venture deeper, they encounter a minotaur. However, Arya has no trouble fighting it. She easily dodges all of its attacks, but her own strikes don't do much damage either. During the fight, the Minotaur swings its weapon around wildly, causing part of the roof above Vulcan to start collapsing. Just as the debris is about to hit her, Tama jumps in front of her and destroys it. This makes Vulcan blush. At the same time, Arya manages to stab the Minotaur in the chest, killing it. Later, at the Adventurers Guild, the receptionist is surprised and thrilled to learn that Arya has grown stronger and can now defeat a Minotaur on her own. After collecting their reward for the quest, Arya, Tama, and Vulcan celebrate together. During this, Vulcan tells Arya that she wants to form a party with her and Tama. Hearing this makes Arya very happy, and she eagerly agrees. Later that night, Tama was crushed by 4 melons. To calm himself down, he checked his stats and was surprised to see a notification informing him that he could now evolve into his second form. However, Tama chose not to evolve, since he doesn't want to look like a monster. Several days passed. One day, while walking around the city, Arya and Tama saw two men beating up a child on the street, and they immediately rushed to help. When the men noticed Tama, they immediately became terrified and fled, recalling that Tama was the one who had beaten Kasman half to death. Arya then asked the child where her parents were. From her reaction, Arya realized the child was an orphan and decided to take her to the church. Upon seeing Arya, all the children at the church lit up with joy and rushed to greet her, and then quickly becoming friends with the newcomer. It turned out that Arya had been helping bring orphaned children to the church and supporting it all along. Learning this, Tama admired her even more. Later that day, Arya was promoted to C-rank adventurer, which made her really happy. However, they soon noticed a crowd gathered around the quest board and asked the guild receptionist what was going on. He explained that the number of missing people had been increasing in the nearby town of Reynold, and demons were believed to be behind it. From children to adults, no one was safe. None of the missing had returned. Hearing this, Arya became angry and was determined to help. Just then, a man named Cedric came in and introduced himself as one of the aforementioned company. Apparently, he was very famous. Years ago, the Devil's Twilight fell upon this world, and a war was fought between man and demon known as Ragnarok. In the end, mankind won at the hands of a young boy now called the Grand Mage. Among the heroes who earned glory on that battlefield was Cedric. Cedric gladly accepts Arya and Vulcan's help. Arya then asks if their group is too small to face the threat of demons. Before he can answer, the guild receptionist reassures her, explaining that Cedric is more than capable. The next day, Tama notices that Arya is getting nervous, so he tries to calm her down. Arya feels grateful for this and gives him a kiss as a reward. On the way, Arya and Vulcan make new friends named Danny, Howard, Kenny, and Marietta. When Arya introduces Tama to them, they find him adorable and fight over him. Just then, a group of ogres appears, blocking their road. Danny steps out of the carriage alone and swiftly kills all the ogres. After arriving at the village chief greets them himself and explains the situation to them. Apparently, he sent a team to handle the demons in the ruins, but they haven't returned. And last night, another young girl went missing. The chief thinks they are the village's only hope now to save them. But noticing that they all seem tired, the chief tells them to rest for now, as he has already prepared food for them. While dining, Arya asks them why they decided to become knights. She learns that Kenny's goal is to earn money for her sick sister's medicine, and Marietta is saving to free her father from slavery. As for Danny and Howard, they are working to pay off their debts. Everyone has a clear motivation except Cedric, who joined the Knights simply because he enjoys killing and has nothing better to do. Later, Arya takes Tama to the girls' bath. While they are undressing in front of him, Vulcan suddenly feels embarrassed and doesn't want Tama to see. Tama, on the other hand, keeps telling himself to stay calm as he looks at their naked bodies. While bathing, the girls begin playfully comparing their big personalities. Meanwhile, at the man bath, Danny and Howard overheard them and want to take a peek, only to get knocked off by Tama. The next day, they go to the ruins searching for demons and encounter a large number of monsters. However, they don't have a hard time defeating them at all. As the monsters keep coming, Tama tries his new skill and kills all of them, impressing everyone and making Arya love him even more. Elsewhere, a demon spies on them and is surprised to see how strong Tama is, considering elemental cats are usually weak and not capable of such power. As they go deeper, the demon comes to greet them and introduces himself as Beryl Astaroth, a surviving remnant of the demons humans once wiped out. He then commands all of his trolls to attack them. As the battle is about to begin, he creates a wall of magic to separate them into groups: Arya and Vulcan, Tama, Danny, Howard, Keeney, and Marietta. As the trolls approach, Tama uses his skill to cut off one of the troll's arms, but it does nothing as the troll can regenerate its arm instantly. Feeling hopeless, Tama keeps running, trying to think of a way to defeat them. Meanwhile, Cedric is having the time of his life, killing the trolls in his path. As Tama runs around, he suddenly gets an idea and uses his flame skill to burn all the trolls alive, killing them. Seeing this, the demon is enraged, but he can't do anything about it, as his hands are full fighting Arya and Vulcan. As the fight goes on, Vulcan manages to distract him long enough for Arya to catch him off guard and stab him in the chest. But before he dies, the demon manages to cut Arya with his poison knife. Everyone becomes worried, and when Cedric examines the poison, he recognizes it as the toxin of a poison dragon. After taking her to the doctor tells them that she has only half a day to live, and the only way to save her is to neutralize the toxin using the eye of an earth dragon. Everyone is ready to help, but Cedric tells them it's not possible. They don't have time to search for a dragon and must think of another way. Tama then remembers the earth dragon he encountered and immediately flies off to the dungeon. He vows to himself that he will save Arya no matter what, even if it costs his life. When he arrives, Tama knows he is no match for the Earth Dragon, so he decides to evolve into his second form. As they fight, Tama realizes he can't win, so he pretends to die, causing the Earth Dragon to let down its guard. Seizing the moment, he strikes its face with his tail, killing it. When his body returns to normal, Tama feels confused but doesn't dwell on it, and quickly storing the dragon in his storage before taking it to Arya. Everyone is surprised by this but doesn't ask any questions. Instead, they just use the dragon's eye to create medicine for Arya. Meanwhile, Arya dreams about when her village was attacked by demons and how an elemental cat saved her. She wonders if this is why she loves cats so much. After several days, Arya fully recovers, bringing joy to everyone around her. Later, Tama checks his status and is shocked to see that his evolution skill has vanished, replaced by a new skill he gained from the Earth Dragon. Curious, he secretly heads to the dungeon alone to test it out. To his surprise, the new skill is incredibly powerful, allowing him to easily defeat a minotaur. Suddenly, a girl appears out of nowhere and asks why he has returned to his current form. Confused by her question, Tama quickly flees upon realizing she is after his Excalibur. The next day, Arya dresses Tama up and takes him on a picnic. As they enjoyed their time together, Arya suddenly remembered the promise she made to her mother to become a powerful warrior when she returned. However, she felt she still had a long way to go, as she was still weak and protected by others. Then, as if to lift her own spirits, she reminds herself that she was the one who defeated Beryl. Afterward, Arya goes to buy new armor from Vulcan, using the large reward she recently received for defeating the demon Beryl. Then, they head to the dungeon together to test out their new gear. As they walk, Tama suddenly activates his skill and buffs everyone in case something bad happen. As they venture deeper, they encounter a goblin. Arya then quickly draws her sword and defeats it with incredible speed, all without using any skills, surprising everyone. Just then, the girl appears again and spots Tama. She gets excited, still seeming to want his Excalibur. Fortunately, Arya stops her and reminds her that Tama is still a kitten, so he can't do that with her yet. Seeing Tama listen to Arya, the girl thinks Arya must be incredibly strong to be able to tame him. Arya then asks the girl's name and what she's doing here. The girl replies that she has no name and was born here. Arya assumes she has no memory and invites her to stay at her house for the time being. The girl then agrees, excited about the opportunity to stay with Tama. This surprises Tama, who thinks it's a bad idea. On the way back, Arya comes up with a name for the girl, Stella, meaning beautiful, which she seems to love and is very happy about. Later, while taking a bath, Stella seems to enjoy herself, but suddenly notices how Arya washes Tama's body, feeling jealous and wishing she could do the same. That night, while they were sleeping, Stella used her telepathic abilities to communicate with Tama, revealing that she was actually the Earth Dragon he had killed. She explained that after her death, her reincarnation skill activated and she was reborn. Hearing this, Tama feared that Stella might want revenge, but she reassured him, saying she had no desire to fight him. Instead, she confessed that she had fallen in love with him. Throughout her life as a dragon, she had never encountered anyone as strong as him. Just then, Arya woke up, startling Stella. She quickly reminded Stella that Tama was her pet and she wasn't going to give him up. Stella agreed for now, but reminded Tama that she was in love with him. The next morning, Arya prepared breakfast for Stella, who found it absolutely delicious. Curious, Stella asked Tama who Arya really was and why someone as strong as he would be her pet. Tama explained that Arya was his precious master, someone he had chosen to serve for the rest of his life. However, Tama warned Stella not to tell Arya the truth, that he was actually a behemoth. He feared that if she discovered his true nature, he wouldn't be able to stay by her side. Stella smiled and jokingly teased him, saying that if he wanted her to keep quiet, he'd have to become her mate. But she quickly reassured him that her pride wouldn't let her take such a shortcut. She wanted to win his heart fair and square. Later, Arya took Stella for a walk around town and asked if she remembered anything about her past. Stella replied that the only thing she could recall was her love for fighting. Hearing this, Arya suggested she try adventuring, hoping it might help her recover her memories. This made Stella happy, and she immediately loved the idea. Afterward, they went to Vulcan's workshop to find an outfit and weapon for Stella. There, Vulcan gave her a new outfit, which she liked, and then she showed off her dragon skills, shocking everyone. They speculated that Stella might be a dragonute, a rare type of human capable of transforming parts of their body into dragon traits. Next, Stella searched for a weapon and found a shield she liked. This surprised Tama, who asked why she chose it. Stella explained that while the old version of herself had no interest in shields, her defeats had taught her the importance of defense. She was grateful to Tama because being killed by him had taught her what true strength was and had also taught her what love is. After that, Stella glanced around once more and found a sword that caught her eye. Later, as they entered the dungeon, Tama, Vulcan, and Arya were surprised by how strong Stella was. She effortlessly defeated all the goblins using just her weapon and her claws. Unimpressed by how easy it was, Stella wanted to fight more, so they decided to venture deeper into the dungeon. There they encountered a group of orcs, but they were still no match for Stella, who quickly annihilated them. As they ventured further, they came across a roper. As soon as Stella saw it, she felt a chill run down her spine. Arya and Tama thought it was a bad idea for her to fight it, but Stella ignored their warnings and decided to take it on alone. When her sword got caught by the monster's tentacle, the roper shot its liquid onto Stella, which made her furious and caused her to lose control. Realizing the situation was getting out of hand, Tama used a new skill to summon his own tentacles. He then quickly moved Arya and Vulcan out of harm's way before using his tentacles to restrain the monster and kill it with his skill. After calming Stella down, Tama asked her what had happened and how she could lose control to such lowly monsters. Stella apologized to Tama, explaining that she was still traumatized from when he had killed her. Wanting to cheer her up, Tama reassured her that if anything happened, he would protect her. This made Stella blush and fall for him even more. Vulcan then told Stella that with her power, they would become the ultimate party together in no time, which made her really happy. Meanwhile, Arya approached Tama and told him to mess her up with those tentacles of his, shocking Tama. Afterward, Tama, Stella, Vulcan, and Arya began strategizing their party formation. They decided to position Stella at the front as the attacker, while Tama, Vulcan, and Arya provided support from behind. Initially, their strategy worked well, but soon Stella started charging after monsters on her own, leaving the rest of the group behind. Reacting quickly, Tama used his skill to buff both Arya and Vulcan, allowing them to swiftly defeat the monsters and catch up to Stella. Later, they took Stella to a bathing area within the dungeon. While they were enjoying the bath, Stella noticed how playfully Arya interacted with Tama, which made her jealous. She then demanded that Arya let her hold Tama instead. Stella argued that since she had seen Arya fight and realized she was weaker, she believed she was the most suitable companion for him. Arya, angered by Stella's claim, refused to give up Tama, and the two began to fight. Meanwhile, poor Tama found himself squished between them as their argument escalated. Suddenly, Vulcan appeared and suggested a compromise that they could all share Tama, with Arya as his wife and herself, and Stella as his second wives. However, Stella rejected this idea outright, insisting that she would be the wife. After returning from the dungeon, they took Stella to the Adventurers Guild to register her as an adventurer. There, the guild receptionist introduced them to a man named Rizz, who seemed to have a quest for them. His request was to guard his cargo on a journey that would take a few days. Upon hearing this, Vulcan immediately declined, explaining that she couldn't join them because she had other matters to attend at her shop. Arya understood and then asked Lace what he was transporting. Unbeknownst to them, his cargo was actually the skeleton of an earth dragon, which he had acquired at an auction a few days ago. Tama grew worried about Stella and asked if she was okay. To his surprise, instead of looking sad, Stella was blushing, recalling how Tama had killed her. Later, the guild receptionist approached Arya and promoted her to B rank. The next day, Arya, Stella, and Tama set off to protect a cargo shipment, and they easily defeated the enemies along the way. That night, Lace gave Arya a flowers, the same kind his fiancée, Eliza, loved. Arya then asked him what he planned to do with a dragon skeleton. Looking at it, he explained that a weapons merchant he knew had started collecting rare materials. He also revealed his belief that a great war was coming. This shocked everyone, especially Tama, who remembered the demon's warning. A war would begin once their power returned. While sleeping, Tama suddenly sensed something and quickly went outside to check. To his surprise, the surrounding area had transformed into a dense forest. Seeing this, Lace informed everyone that a new labyrinth had formed and urged them to leave immediately. After reaching a safe area, he explained that if they wanted, they could explore the newly formed labyrinth. He pointed out that opportunities like this were rare, as new labyrinths often contained valuable materials and hidden treasure chests. Arya thanked Lace and immediately headed toward the labyrinth with Tama and Stella. On the way, Stella started getting excited and wanted to go on a rampage. Seeing this, Arya remembered the advice Vulcan had given her in a message in case something like this happened. She quickly opened the message and read it, only to be surprised by its contents. Following Vulcan's instructions, Arya told Stella that if she fought alongside her as a team, she would let her hold Tama just once. Hearing this, Stella immediately calmed down and happily cooperated, eager to earn her reward, while Tama felt betrayed by Vulcan for using him as bait. Just then, a light suddenly appeared and told them to follow it if they wanted treasure. As they followed the light, they were suddenly surrounded by monsters. Stella quickly distracted the monsters while Arya took them down from behind. Afterward, Arya thanked Stella for her teamwork and Stella blushed, replying that she only did it for Tama. Arya then looked around, wondering if the light might be leading them into a trap. She quickly told everyone that it was too dangerous to continue. Suddenly, a girl appeared from the bushes, and the light that had been guiding them transformed into another girl. They then introduced themselves as Lily, the High Pixie, and Fairy, the High Dryad. Arya happily introduced herself to them, but they didn't seem to care. Instead, they picked up Tama, hugged him tightly, and explained that the only reason they led them here was that they wanted to befriend the little kitten. Stella, furious and jealous, couldn't stand how casually they were holding Tama, something she wanted to do as well. To calm her down, Fairy revealed a treasure chest behind her, which contained a rare potion. Arya was thrilled by the discovery, but Fairy then told her that there were even more treasures. However, to obtain them, Arya first needed to retrieve a key. She then pointed to the key, which was surrounded by a swarm of hornets. With Tama and Stella's help, Arya easily defeated all the hornets and retrieved the key. Curious, she asked them what the key was for, but Lily pointed to the doors above her, explaining that it was for the boss room, where a treasure chest should be waiting inside. Stella was excited and eager to fight the boss, but Arya disagreed, thinking it was a bad idea. She explained that they had been on the road for a while, and that it would be best to rest in town and recover before taking on the boss, which Tama agreed with. Hearing this, Fairy and Lily asked Arya if they could come along as they wanted to visit a human town, and Arya agreed to take them with her. In town, Fairy and Lily were amazed by their surroundings. As they wandered around, they excitedly grabbed a snack from a store without paying. Instead of telling them to pay, Stella simply asked them to feed her some too. Luckily, Arya arrived just in time to pay for the snack. Later, Arya took the rare potion she found to Lace for examination. After inspecting it, he discovered that it was extremely valuable. The potion is called the Drop of Truth. The elixir forces anyone who drinks it to speak their mind exactly as it is, without the slightest deviation or exaggeration. As they talked, Fairy, Lily, and Stella suddenly entered the room and interrupted them, asking Arya if the potion was valuable. When Lace saw Lily and Fairy, he was momentarily shocked, but quickly composed himself. Acting as if nothing was wrong, he abruptly left the room, saying he had just remembered an important errand and needed to leave now. That night, Arya introduced Lily and Fairy to the bath, and they instantly fell in love with it. As they bathed, they couldn't help but admire Arya's figure and began playfully touching and teasing her. Seeing this, Stella got excited and eagerly wanted to join in too, while Tama watched in shock. Afterward, Arya kept her promise and allowed Stella to hold Tama. As soon as she did, Stella blushed before eagerly sniffing him. Meanwhile, Vulcan had finished her work and was heading to meet Arya when she encountered a skeleton on the way. After swiftly defeating it, she heard a bell behind her and realized someone was controlling it. but as she turned to look, the person quickly fled. The next day, Arya, Tama, and Stella headed to the boss room, ready for battle, while Lily and Fairy waited outside. As soon as they saw the boss, Stella distracted it, while Tama used his tentacles to restrict its movement, creating an opening for Arya to finish it off. After the boss was defeated, a treasure chest appeared containing a scroll that granted Arya an ancient skill called Sacred Blade. When they returned, they were shocked to find Lily and Fairy missing. All that remained was a broken jar with snacks spilled on the ground. Elsewhere, Lace held a bell in his hand, gazing at his fiancée as he murmured, "It won't be long." They search everywhere for Lily and Fairy, but it's no use. That night, when they return to the inn, they are surprised to find Vulcan waiting for them. After hearing their story, Vulcan suggests asking around at the tavern. Just then, a butler arrives and announces that Lord Earl wishes to meet Arya, Vulcan, and Stella. He makes the request while looking at their big personalities. Stella immediately refuses, which confuses the butler. He then reminds her that refusing the Earl's command is a crime. However, Vulcan cheerfully assures him that they will gladly go. Meanwhile, the nearby girls exchange worried glances, concerned for Arya, Vulcan, and Stella. On the way, Vulcan tells everyone that she thinks Lily and Fairy might have been kidnapped by the Lord, as he has a reputation for abducting girls. At the mansion, the Lord greets them with a smile and immediately asks them to become his mistresses before insisting that they drink the tea in front of them. Tama notices something is wrong with the tea and quickly uses his skill to buff everyone. After they drink it, the Lord is surprised to see them still awake. Frustrated, his butler plans to add a stronger dose next time. Suddenly, Stella slams her hand on the table. Tired of pretending to be polite, she demands to know where Lily and Fairy are. Startled, the Lord panics and orders his servants to lock Stella, Arya, and Vulcan away so he can cleanse their body and soul later. Stella prepares to fight, but before she can make a move, a loud commotion erupts outside. A massive horde of skeletons is attacking the town, and they're heading straight for the mansion. The Lord quickly changes his mind and orders his servants to protect him, telling them to forget about Arya, Vulcan, and Stella for now. Arya, Vulcan, and Stella then rush to help the townspeople. However, no matter how many skeletons they destroy, more keep appearing. Realizing they need a new approach, Arya decides they should split up. Vulcan will guide and protect the townsfolk, while Arya and Stella head off to find the summoner. To their surprise, the summoner is actually Rhys. He then explains that he is doing this for revenge, as his fiancée was murdered by the Lord. Rhys then reveals Lily and Fairy, explaining that on his own, he could barely summon 2 skeletons. However, with their help, he can summon as many as he wants. Tama notices the bell in Rhys's hand and suspects that it is controlling their minds. Just then, Rhys uses his mana drain arrow, drawing out Lily and Fairy's mana to summon a massive earth dragon skeleton, leaving everyone in shock. Meanwhile, the Lord and his servants climb to the top of the mansion, desperately trying to survive. Tama and Stella do their best to attack the skeletal dragon, but no matter what they do, it keeps regenerating. Seeing this, Arya uses her Sacred Blade skill, finally managing to damage the dragon. However, the skill takes a heavy toll on her body, and she knows she can't keep using it. With Arya unable to continue, Tama and Stella keep attacking to distract the dragon. Seizing the opportunity, they successfully rescue Lily and Fairy using Tama's tentacles. After that, Stella goes all out, unleashing her full power to destroy the dragon. This creates an opening for Arya to land the final blow, successfully destroying it. However, Rhys refuses to give up and tries to use his bell again. Just then, one of the skeletons steps forward and stops him. To his shock, the skeleton transforms into his fiancée and pleads with him to stop. Overcome with emotion, Rhys finally gives in and surrenders. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the town, Vulcan does her best to protect the townspeople from the skeletons, but suddenly the undead begin to fade away. The next day, Rhys is held captive and set for public execution in front of the townspeople by the Lord. However, what the Lord doesn't realize is that just moments ago, Arya had prepared a special tea for him, one laced with drops of truth, and ensured he drank it. Because of this, the Lord unknowingly confesses to everyone that he was the one who killed Rhys's fiancée, along with several other women in the town. Outraged, the townsfolk turn on him and his butler, beating them in fury. After everything is settled, Rhys thanks Arya, Vulcan, and Stella for helping bring justice to the corrupt lord. Several days have passed, and Rice was sentenced to imprisonment instead of receiving the death penalty. Meanwhile, the lord was stripped of his title and condemned to a life of confinement alongside his butler. That night, Tama, Arya, Stella, Vulcan, Lily, and Fairy happily relax in the bath, finally relieving all the stress they had endured so far. The next day, Fairy and Lily decide to follow Arya and her party back to her town and stay with her. When they arrive, they are greeted by the guild receptionist and fellow adventurers who celebrate their return and their victory over an S-ranked undead dragon. The guild receptionist then announces Arya's promotion to A rank and Stella's promotion to B rank. Curious, Arya asks about Vulcan's rank, but Vulcan nervously explains that she declined the promotion because she prefers her current rank. As a token of appreciation, the guild gifts them a 10-year supply of honey-pickled fruit. Arya and her party are thrilled, but she can't help wondering, where will they even store all that in their tiny house? Just then, the guild receptionist approaches Arya and suggests that it's time for her to move into a bigger house, considering the size of her party, which Arya and her party agree with. The next day, they visit a merchant to look for a larger house. He then smiles and happily shows them one of the available houses. As he gives them a tour, he worries that they might not like it. After all, the house has a large open-air bath, which is the main reason it hasn't been sold yet. However, to his surprise, Arya and her party absolutely love it. That evening, Stella happily hugs Tama, and he can't do anything about it because earlier that day, she had helped a lot with the movie, so Arya granted her this reward as a thank you. The next day, Vulcan visits Arya and gives her a large amount of food as a housewarming gift. With that, they begin celebrating their new home. At night, Tama can't sleep since he has gained new skills after his previous fight. He has now unlocked the ability to transform into Behemoth's third form. While curious about it, he hesitates, afraid he might not be able to return to his current form. As he thinks, Stella suddenly wakes up and asks what he's doing. After he explains everything to her, she becomes excited and eagerly wants to see his third form, which scares him. The next day, while having breakfast, Lily and Fairy ask Arya if she can plant more greenery around the house, to which Arya agrees. Lily and Fairy then begin playing music, and suddenly, trees start sprouting from the ground. Seeing this, Vulcan panics and tells them to stop, realizing that this isn't an ordinary tree, it's a world tree. This mythical tree has the power to enrich the soil and deposit extremely rare minerals underground. Not wanting the townsfolk to discover it, Vulcan instructs Fairy to plant normal trees around it to conceal the world tree. Just then, a pond appears, and to Arya and Vulcan's surprise, it isn't just ordinary water, it's a life spring, a legendary source of water that can heal any wound or illness. It is even regarded as an elixir. Later, Arya warns Lily and Fairy to keep her ability a secret, as fairies who can create world trees and life springs are prime targets for kidnapping by bad people. As they talk, Tama suddenly looks at Vulcan, surprised by her knowledge of how she can casually identify the world tree and life spring with just one glance. He wonders if she is an artifact smith, a blacksmith whose skills are officially recognized by the state. However, remembering that Vulcan recently refused a promotion, Tama thinks there's no way she could be one. Suddenly, the guild receptionist rushes in, announcing an emergency quest for them. Apparently, strong monsters have begun appearing on the first level of the dungeon for unknown reasons and have already killed several adventurers. The receptionist asks Arya and her party to investigate the situation. Afterward, at the dungeon, Lily and Fairy are excited about their new outfits and eagerly show off their skills by taking down all the goblins along the way. As Arya and her party venture deeper, they suddenly hear a minotaur's scream. Sensing that something is wrong, they rush to investigate, only to find an A-rank troll eating a monster, surrounded by the corpses of other monsters. Arya quickly realizes that the troll must be the reason why so many monsters have been fleeing to the upper levels. Wanting to test her own growth since her last battle with a troll, Arya tells Tama to stay out of the fight. She, Stella, Fairy, and Lily then launch an attack. However, no matter how much damage they deal, the troll keeps regenerating. Realizing this, Arya instructs Lily and Fairy to aim for its eyes, creating an opening for her to land her ultimate skill, striking the troll down and killing it. After returning from the dungeon, Arya and her party happily bathe together, enjoying the moment like a family. Meanwhile, in the imperial capital of Clariel, knights rush to inform the king that demons and monsters have become restless across the land. suggesting that war may happen soon. Elsewhere, the sword Saint Alicia gazes into the distance and says, "The time has finally come." The next day, the guild receptionist cheerfully announces that Arya and her party have been summoned by the Emperor. The news excites everyone, except for Vulcan, who doesn't seem pleased for some reason. The next day, they set off for the imperial capital, and their journey goes smoothly. As they arrive, the knights greet them and escort them to the Emperor. To their surprise, both the Emperor and the first prince, Julius, recognize Vulcan, revealing that she is an artifact smith. This revelation shocks everyone. Vulcan smiles nervously and apologizes for keeping it a secret. It turns out that during the Battle of Ragnarok, Vulcan was part of the Great Mage's party that sealed the demons away. As a reward for her role in the battle, she was allowed to live as an ordinary blacksmith, even though she would normally be required to serve her country as an artifact smith. Just then, a girl named Beelzebub appears before them. Surprisingly, she is the sacred demon lord, a demon who has chosen to side with mankind. She explains that Arya and her party were summoned because they are needed in the fight against the soon-to-be revived four fiends. These fiends have only one goal: to unseal the scourge of mankind, Mammon, one of the 7 great demon lords, and use his power to resurrect all demons. This revelation shocks everyone, especially Tama, who suddenly recalls the demon's ominous words. Arya and her party exchange glances before agreeing to help. Later, the first prince takes Vulcan to the workshop, assigning her the task of creating artifacts for everyone. Meanwhile, the rest of the group will undergo training to develop new skills. He then turns to Stella and informs her that as a tank, he will personally oversee her training. Lily and Fairy, on the other hand, will be trained by Beelzebub. As for Arya, the first prince believes he has the perfect training partner for her, and then leads her to meet them. What Arya doesn't know is that the person the prince is referring to is actually Alicia. Upon seeing Arya, Alicia remembers her and tells her how proud she is of how far she's come. Hearing this fills Arya with happiness. Arya then introduces Tama to Alicia, who finds him interesting. After that, she turns to the prince, suggesting that others may be better suited to train Arya. However, before he can respond, Arya interrupts and insists on training under her. Wanting to test Arya's skills, Alicia asks her to attack with everything she has. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts as Alicia's presence becomes overwhelming, striking fear into everyone around her. Arya's legs begin to tremble, but she forces herself to push through. Summoning her strength, she charges toward Alicia and unleashes her skill. Alicia is impressed by Arya's determination, even though she effortlessly dodges the attack. With a satisfied smile, she tells Arya that she has passed the test. Later, while training Stella, the prince is surprised by her incredible strength. In terms of raw power, she is even stronger than him. However, her movements are too simple and need significant improvement. As for Fairy and Lily, Beelzebub is amazed by the amount of mana they possess and lays out a large collection of books for them to study. As time passes, Vulcan comes looking for Arya and is surprised to see Alicia. It turns out that Vulcan and Alicia are actually good friends. To Arya's shock, Alicia then reveals that she is not only the Great Mage's wife, but also his slave. That night, while bathing, Alicia happily shares the story of how she met the Great Mage. As she talks, she also reveals that Beelzebub is his wife as well, leaving everyone stunned. Meanwhile, in the next room, Tama and the prince overhear everything. After that, Alicia prepares hamburger steak for everyone, mentioning that it is a delicacy from the Great Mage's homeland, a place called Japan. This makes Tama wonder if the Great Mage is a visitor from another world. Later, while everyone is asleep, Tama sneaks out of the room for a walk. There he meets Alicia, who smiles and tells him she knows he is the behemoth. She then asks him to protect everyone when the time comes. This leaves Tama confused, wondering why she hasn't told anyone about it. The scene then shifts to a painting of the behemoth and the Great Mage standing side by side. Several days pass and everyone grows stronger. While training with Arya, Alicia notices that the only reason Arya has come this far is because she admires her. Alicia then offers some advice, telling Arya that to unlock new skills, she must think beyond that admiration, and then questions her, "What is it that you fight for?" As time passed, Vulcan finally finished making artifacts for the group, and everyone was able to gain new skills during their training, except for Arya. Frustrated, Arya was determined to train harder. Just then, Beelzebub suddenly interrupted her, saying that the time had finally come. She had pinpointed the location where the four fiends had been resurrected. Cedric and the Imperial Army have already set out for the two pinpointed locations. As for the remaining two, one is the kingdom of Arphus and the other is Ruin the Labyrinthos, located in Arya's town. This surprises Arya and her party, and they decide to head there to protect their town. Meanwhile, Alicia decides to go to the kingdom of Arphus, as it is her hometown. If you come this far, please consider liking and subscribing for more videos like this. Thank you.